Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Minds and Machine Group Limited General Meeting. Throughout this presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and can be submitted at any time via the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Just please simply type in your question and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it's appropriate to do so. These will be available via your Investor Meet Company dashboard, and we will notify you by email when they're ready for your review. I'd also like to remind you that this presentation is being recorded. I'd now like to hand over to Guy Elliott, Chairman from Minds and Machines Group. Good afternoon, Guy.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the general meeting of your company. It is now 3 p.m. My name is Guy Elliott, the non-executive chairman of the company, and I will act as chairman throughout the course of the meeting. It is now 3 p.m. and the quorum required by the company's articles of association, being 2 members present in person and by proxy, including via the online platform, is present. As the requisite quorum is present, I declare this general meeting open. Due to the current COVID-19 pandemic and associated government recommendations on social distancing and the avoidance of public gatherings, this general meeting is being conducted as a closed meeting. Accordingly, shareholders have been requested not to attend this meeting in person, and instead all shareholders have been asked to vote by proxy. However, the board would like to welcome those shareholders listening in to this general meeting via the electronic Investor Meet Company platform link. We trust that each of you are keeping safe and well throughout these uncertain times. Shareholders were afforded the opportunity to ask questions prior to the meeting, and the board has received a number of questions from shareholders, which will be dealt with at the end of this meeting, after the formal business has been. Unfortunately, the Investor Meet Company platform does not allow meeting participants to raise ad hoc questions, and as such, the board will not be taking any new questions at the meeting. Since there are no shareholders attending this meeting in person, save for directors, the votes on each resolution today will be conducted on the basis of a poll rather than a show of hands. All proxy votes have been received by 3 p.m. on the 21st of April 2021 and recorded as valid by the registrar will be counted in the poll. Prior to putting the resolution to the meeting, I would like to advise the meeting of the proxies received by the company in relation to the resolutions. For 401,643,298, against 108,106, discretion 4,143, abstentions nil. In my capacity as chairman of the meeting, I am electing to put the resolution to a poll in accordance with Article 715 of the company's Article of Association. I am casting all votes for which I am appointed proxy in accordance with the proxy instructions that have been duly received and validated in respect of the resolution. The resolution I will now read out. The following resolution is proposed as an ordinary resolution as set out in the notice of general meeting. That 1A, the disposal by the company to Registry Services LLC, GoDaddy, of certain of the assets and entities owned directly and indirectly by the company and necessary for or material to the operation of its business, the disposal in accordance with the terms of the sale agreement dated 2021, the sale agreement for an aggregate consideration of $120 million in cash, subject to adjustment in accordance with the terms of the sale agreement, be approved in accordance with Rule 15 of the AIM rules for companies, and that the directors of the company be authorized to take all such steps as any of them may consider necessary or desirable to implement and give full effect to the intentions of the parties under the sale agreement, including by waiver or variation of the terms and conditions of the sale agreement. B, each and any of the directors be hereby authorized to conclude the disposal and to do and to procure to be done all such acts and things on behalf of the company and any of its subsidiaries as they consider necessary and expedient for the purposes of giving effect to the disposal, with such amendments, modifications, variations, or revisions as are not of material nature. I'm pleased to advise the results of the poll are as follows. In favor, 99.97%. Against, 0.03%. On that basis, I hereby declare the resolution is carried as an ordinary resolution by the requisite majority. That concludes the formal business of the meeting, and we shall move on to answering the various questions we've received from shareholders in advance of this meeting. And I will hand over to Brian Disher, our Chief Financial Officer.
Thank you, Guy. We have, as indicated before, we received a number of questions ahead of the meeting, and those are now up on the screen, and I'll work through each one of those. Question 1, please supply some dates when you anticipate the asset sale will take place. As we've set out in the circular, there are a number of conditions precedent to be satisfied prior to the deal closing, including approvals from ICANN, regulators in China, and also our commercial partners, such as the cities of Miami and Boston. We have started the process of engaging with these partners and introducing GoDaddy Registry to them. The fact GoDaddy Registry is an established industry name is obviously a positive, as GoDaddy Registry can demonstrate that they can perform the registry role that MMX currently performs and also meet the regulatory standards we adhere to. The long stop date for the deal is August 7th. Our obvious expectation is we will satisfy all relevant conditions by this date. Shareholders should be aware there's a lot of work to be done, and there are a number of stakeholders we need to engage with. It's still quite early in that process. And in a number of cases, we needed to get today's approval from shareholders before we could properly advance those conversations. So I can't provide further guidance regarding timing at this stage, but we will keep shareholders updated as we get greater clarity on the conditions being satisfied and the expected timing for closing the transaction. Question 2. I would strongly prefer maximum, i.e. 100% distribution of sale proceeds to shareholders. Could you confirm this will be done? As set out in the circular, the board will engage with shareholders regarding how to maximize shareholder value following completion of the GoDaddy Registry transaction. Also, as set out in the circular, there are a number of options, and these options are not mutually exclusive. Your views are, of course, noted, but it is also worth noting that other shareholders have different preferences, and the board has to find the right balance. Question 3, what are the specific risks to the deal not completing, and what percentage chance would you assign to them? I can't say anything in this forum that goes beyond what the company has said publicly, but we are, of course, confident that the deal will proceed and completed prior to the long stop date, as is GoDaddy Registry. The key conditions to the deal are approvals from ICANN, certain other regulatory approvals, such as in China, and in certain cases, transfer consents for assets, which we operate in partnership or on a shared ownership basis. Question 4, is there a non-public schedule of the TLD assets and the respective values as part of the $120 million sale price? If so, will that be made public? The transaction price of $120 million was negotiated as a gross purchase price. The company and GoDaddy Registry are currently working with their advisors to agree in good faith the apportionment of the consideration between the various assets being transferred. It is unlikely that the specific allocation of consideration between assets will be made public. Question 5, if any particular asset, i.e. a TLD, doesn't obtain the necessary permissions, or is purchased by another party under some preemption rights, does the proposed sale price get adjusted accordingly and the sale still proceeds, or is this an all or nothing sale? In some cases, the agreement works such that an asset can be excluded, but the intention is that all of the business and assets of MMX are acquired by GoDaddy Registry, and MMX cannot be obliged to complete the transaction if consent were not achieved, and MMX would be left with residual operational liabilities. Clearly, we intend to work with GoDaddy Registry and our other stakeholders to ensure the optimum outcome for all parties, which we believe, and which has now been supported by the shareholder vote, is the transfer of our operations to GoDaddy Registry, a leading operator in the TLD industry. Question 6, are you able to disclose which senior staff members are transitioning with the assets to GoDaddy Registry and which are staying with MMX? At this stage, we cannot give any further details, as conversations between MMX staff and GoDaddy Registry have not been completed. However, I can tell you that having unexpectedly stepped into the CFO role at MMX after having previously retired, I will not be joining GoDaddy Registry once this transaction has completed. Most importantly, as set out in the circular, the company will have post-completion responsibilities to GoDaddy Registry. So our focus will be on ensuring that we have the people in place that are needed to provide the transition services. Question 7, is the company's intention and/or are there any aim or other rules that preclude the company from entering into preliminary negotiations with suitable targets for the Rule 15 cash shell? I note the chairman's letter states that will happen post-closing of the sale. At this stage, any conversations would inevitably be very preliminary, as the closing of the deal, as we discussed, remains subject to certain conditions. We will also be providing transition services for GoDaddy Registry post-completion of the transaction, and certain cash will remain in escrow until March 2022. However, the company will evaluate any situation which the board believes enhances shareholder returns. Question 8. Given that certain market sectors are very popular right now, and with the potential attraction of a SPAC-like cash shell to any such participant being quite high, are the directors mindful of the market timing opportunity to potentially seek and conduct this transaction sooner rather than later? And if so, what is the earliest the directors could envision such a transaction being conducted? As I've already discussed, until we close the transaction, it's unlikely the company can seriously engage with any potential target. But once the company is in receipt of the completion funds, namely the $120 million, less the $12 million that will be held in escrow, we will have a greater degree of certainty, and that will enable the board to formulate a more definitive view on timing and the balance sheet structure needed to transition to an investment company. The board is certainly aware of the transactions of cash shells in the current market, but we caution that the points around timing and certainty will very much impact their attractiveness. And question 9, is MMX looking to buy another company or, based on the sale, looking to return all cash to shareholders? As discussed previously and set out in the circular, we will explore any proposal which we believe will have the support of the majority of shareholders and maximizes shareholder value. That completes all of the questions.
Yeah, that answers all the questions we've received from shareholders. On behalf of my colleagues and myself, I would like to thank you all for attending. We hope to be able to meet with many of you in person in the future, but until then, thank you for your continued support of the company. We're working hard to satisfy the various conditions precedent to closing the sale to GoDaddy, and we look forward to updating you with further details regarding completion of the disposal and likely timing in due course. Thank you and good afternoon.
Guy, and to the rest of the management team from Minds Machine, thank you very much indeed for your time today. Could I please ask investors not to close this session, as you'll now be automatically redirected for the opportunity to provide any feedback you may have. If you access this meeting from the website, then the feedback page will appear. If you access this meeting via the link sent to you by email, you'll simply be asked to log in to just submit your feedback. On behalf of the management team of Minds Machine Group PLC, I'd like to thank you very much for your time today. That now concludes today's session. Thank you for your time once again, and good afternoon.